Okay, this is the P1 paper from October 2021. This is question number 9, which is a graphs and transformations question. Let's have a look at it. We've got this function here, y equals fx, where fx is equal to root x. They tell me a point P, which is in this case 9, 3 on there. And then what we're going to do is two different transformations here. We're going to do f of 2x and f of x plus 3. And it asks me to draw that on the new diagram, diagram 1, and it's going to say, tell me where P is transformed to each time. So let's go and do that. P is down, the graph's down here. So on this one of the transformations we've said is f2x. Right, what does f2x do? Well, generally what it does is a stretch scale factor a half parallel to the y-axis. What does that mean then? Well, the word stretch is a little bit confusing here then. It means that all the values are going to be squashed half as far. The easiest one to do is to say this P. If it was 9, 3 on the original graph, then it's going to be 4.5, 3 on my new function, okay? Now that's true of every function here as well. This will be half the value, this will be half the value, this will be half the value. All the way across, the x value would be half the value for the y value. So what that ends up meaning, and this should be just relatively straightforward to you then, we're gonna get something like that being the curve there. And if I actually put the point P as being 4.53 there, that's going to be good enough to get me my first mark. So that's f2x. And then if I'm asked to do f of x plus 3, what is that? That is a translation of the whole graph up 3 units. So again, if we go back to the original graph here, I mean, this is really handy for me with the iPad. All I could simply do would be to take this graph and move it up 1, 2, 3 units. I don't know how accurate they would expect you to be in terms of the fact that if it has gone up 3 units, then this value here should lie on that horizontal line there. I wouldn't worry too much about that, simply because, again, what they've asked us to do is to talk about the point P. So that's P dash on this one. This time what's going to happen is that for that one there, P is just going to go up to the new point. So P dash on this one is going to be 9, 6. So as long as you've got the 2 P's on there, as long as you've got that one there, and hang on, let's put this on, and that one there, that will be enough to get you the marks. I think the curves need to be sort of the right sort of thing there. Yeah, I would say that's absolutely fine for what is it? A, part A. So part B then says, show that the if the two graphs meet each other, find the x coordinates where the two graphs meet. Okay, so this was really more for A. For part B then, if I'm going to try and find, so what they're saying is that up here somewhere, these two graphs would meet at a new point there. We don't need that stuff on there, but yeah, okay, that's fine. If they're going to meet each other, what I really want to do is I want to know what is f of 2x. Well, fx is root x, so f of 2x is root 2x. If f of x is root x, then f of x plus 3 is root x plus 3. So what we need to find is where these two graphs meet each other. So we're just going to equate them. Let's tell the examiner what we're doing. The graphs meet when root 2x equals root x plus 3. That's a nasty little question, this one here, in terms of stuff that you may not have seen before when we're doing this. But they have given us a clue in the fact that they've said try and get it to this sort of situation. So that's root x equals something. So if that's root x equals something, when I'm looking at my equation here, then I want to try and get root x equals. So the simplest first step is on this left-hand side, split that up into root 2 root x. And then I've got root x plus 3 here. And now what I'm going to do is get root x onto one side, everything else onto the other side, and see how close I can get it to the answer that they've got. So let's take the root x's over to one side. Root 2 root x minus root x is equal to 3. Take root x out as a factor. So this is what I mean. Not very nice sort of algebra or manipulation at all here. So root x then is going to be 3 over root 2 minus 1. Don't be too quick to go and check and see if that's the right answer, because even if it is, we don't have a surd on the bottom here. So before I do anything, before I go and check my actual, does it work out to be what I want it to be, I know that what I've got to do is to get rid of the surd on the bottom here. The way that we get rid of surds is to times by root 2 plus 1 over root 2 plus 1, okay? So when we're doing that then, a lot of work involved in this, a lot of algebra work involved in this. If I'm going to do this, root x works out to be equal to, well, the top's okay, because that's going to be 3 lots of root 2 plus 1. But on the bottom here, root 2 times root 2 gives me 2. Root 2 times that gives me plus root 2. Minus 1 times that gives me the minus root 2. And minus 1 times 1 gives me minus 1. Now, I've done that quite quickly because you should be used to the idea that when I do this, that middle part's all going to cancel out. So some people don't even do this multiple. Some people would actually have gone straight away and said it's root x over 3 root 2 plus 1, but they would have said straight away root 2 times root 2 is 2, and minus 1 times 1 is minus 1, like that. They would have missed out the middle bit. Absolutely no problem with people doing that. I've got no problem with you putting the values in, but knowing that they're going to cancel, absolutely you need to be able to do. So this then works out to be, so they've designed this quite nicely, haven't they? The bottom's 1, so we just get 3 root 2 plus 1. If now I go back and check, where's the question? Yeah, that's what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to work out to be 3 root 2 plus 1, so we are sorted with part B. Only 3 marks for that. A bit stingy for them, really, with regards to what we're doing here. Part C then says, it's going to be finding the y-coordinate, isn't it? Yeah, hence find in simplest form the coordinates of Q. So we found the x value, they want us to find the x value and the y value. So if they're asking me to do that, first of all, I'm going to tidy that up and get x equals. And then once I've got that, I need to put it into either root 2x or root x plus 3. Doesn't matter which one we use. I'm probably going to use the root x plus 3. But let's go ahead and actually try and do this, part C. So we've got that for the coordinates. So I want the x value and I want the y value. I'm going to get the x value first of all. X is simply squaring both sides. So squaring root x gives me x, and squaring this is going to give me 3 squared root 2 plus 1 squared, which is going to give me 9 lots of root 2 plus 1 times root 2 plus 1, and you're now going to multiply that all out. So it gives me 9 lots of root 2 times root 2, root 2 times 1, 1 times root 2, and 1 times 1. I just don't want to have all that on when I'm actually doing it. So root 2 times root 2 is 2. Root 2 times 1 is root 2. 1 times root 2 is another root 2, and 1 times 1 is 1 there. So in other words, I get that x is equal to 9 lots of 3 plus 2 root 2, and that's good enough to leave as my answer for that bit. I want the coordinates, so I also want the y value. The y value, I can either use root x plus 3, or I can use 2 root x. I'm not going to be doing 2 root x. I don't want to put that into there. Absolutely not. But I can use y equals root x plus 3, because that means y is going to give me root x, which is the square root. Oh no, sorry, we've already got root x, haven't we? Sorry, we've got it. Don't need to do anything complicated. I've got it up there. It's 3 root 2 plus 1. I was going to do a lot of work then. I'm going to be silly. So it's 3 root 2 plus 1 from before, plus another 3, and then tidy that up. What's that? That's 3 root 2 plus 3 plus another 3. That's going to be 3 root 2 plus 6. Now, if you want to, we've taken a factor out of that one, so we could take a factor out of this one and say, take 3 out as a factor, which would leave me root 2 plus 2. You don't need to do that very, very, very last step. Yeah, lots of nasty algebra in that, so just make sure you've maybe checked that out a couple of times. Okay, hopefully that all makes sense.